Hi, I'm Aodian.
And I'm Julian.
And this is the old police house, and we've made it all open plan, and we took everything back to the brick and started again, really, didn't we?
We looked at some new build places to start off with, but two things really. First of all, they were too far away from the centre of the village. We wanted the village life, and added to that, of course, whilst they're very nice in the way that the developers want them to be. Here we were able to do what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it.
Yeah. So why renewables? I'd spent quite a lot of time looking at a whole variety of things. The house originally had gas and electric, and that's what I was familiar with and what Julian was familiar with as well. It was something that Julian was really keen on, particularly. So when we were discussing what we were going to do, Julian really took the lead on why, and then we looked at things together as to how we were going to do it. So why did it matter so much to you? Remind me.
I think it's a sort of a saving the planet, it's sort of eco-credentials kind of thing, really. We don't have children of our own, but we have nephews, we have nieces, and there's a lot of things that everyone, us two included, does every day to basically mess up the planet. So if we can do something to claim a little back, then the solar route kind of does that.
And I spend quite a lot of time researching for my job on a day-to-day basis, looking at new material. And so I found my way into lots of different groups and things like that on Facebook and Instagram. And I suppose we knew that it was always going to cost a certain amount, but we felt that actually, Julian always says you're like paying your energy bills in advance and doing something good, for the next generation at the same time.
I think people have uncertainty about it because it's new, because it's different. You look on a nice, bright, sunny day and there's the power wall up at 100% and it's great. And then, of course, there's the danger you get scared the moment there's a little bit of cloud and you're wondering where the next bit of energy is coming from. But once you learn to ride out those little bumps, makes things a lot easier, and actually after a while it just becomes every day like anything else.
Yeah. Okay, so why did we choose custom renewables? Why did we choose Mark? So I had, I think, probably up to 10 telephone conversations or email trail sort of with various people, asking questions, sending photographs, and we had a mixed response. And for me, it's a lot about, I spend my day working with people, and so does Julian. And so a lot of it was about what the person would bring to the project as well. They didn't have to be some kind of, renewables superstar or anything. I needed to feel that we could trust them. And I feel that Mark, when he came out, he was happy to talk. He was happy to go through things. He was able to give us a rough guide as to what things would involve, what we would be looking at. He was prepared to talk through what the project would involve. And then ultimately, he stayed with us and sort of checked in as the process moved along. And then I guess we worked out that it really was the right person for the job. We'd obviously made the commitment by then, but Mark's been on the end of the phone, helping us, sorting things out, answering queries all the way through. I don't do a 9-to-5 job, and so I often need people to be available 5 o'clock onwards, and that doesn't always work either. And I think Mark was answering the telephone, answering texts, sending out emails at times when I knew I had the time to concentrate and to look at things. So for me, I think that was probably a deciding factor, was his preparedness to be available when we needed him to be part of that project. But I think it was meeting him and listening to him talk. Then, of course, I did my extra Google searches and sort of kind of look at, who the person is as well. And I suppose we felt really reassured.
Yeah, there was the incident, wasn't there, when we'd switched the electricity off, and all of a sudden we realised we weren't getting hot water.
Yeah.
And Mark was there at the end of the phone to talk us through, okay, and it wasn't particularly complicated once we worked out what we needed to do, but guided us through. And this was like a Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah. And I think he'd shown all of that during the process and made us feel confident. And that I think because so much of the technology was new to us, we really needed somebody who was going to work with us. It wasn't going to be a fit and disappear. It was going to be a relationship building exercise where we knew that over the next few years, as we got to know the system, got better at it, and to help us navigate any issues, that actually Mark was going to...
You need somebody for this sort of thing who's clearly going to hang around, because there's so many things, I don't know, be it satellite dishes, jacuzzis, where you've got a whole load of cowboys who like turn up, sell you something, and then when something's not quite right, they're nowhere to be seen. So to have the confidence that Mark was always going to be there for us, not just during the installation, but actually in the months and potentially years afterwards, it was important to get that.
Yeah. We started on August the 1st in 2024, and we knocked down bits, we built bits up, and
there was a stage when we'd come around and there was less house rather than more, which wasn't necessarily the object of the exercise.
Spent a lot of time calming Julian down. It will be fine, it will be okay. But it was, so it was quite a long process, and I suppose it was saying to Mark and sending him photographs and saying, this is where we are, this is what we're doing. And Mark behind the scenes was busy sort of kind of getting the team together and saying, this is what you need to do, this is where you need to be, and liaising with the builders as well, which was brilliant. Julian has a job which gives him some flexibility for liaising with people during the day. I really don't. I just have a lunchtime, and it's in order to sort of kind of to fit things into that time, it can be quite pressured. So knowing that Mark was prepared to liaise with the builders was brilliant. I think it took time, because between the house being waterproof and making sure all the equipment was ready to go in and everything was ready, so there were a few sort of kind of, I guess, tense moments, not tense as in there was a problem, but where you've got builders, window people, heating people, trying to navigate all of those. I felt that actually there was really good communication. It was really clear, the time scale, and I think we felt reassured and our hands held in the right way. It wasn't overbearing, it wasn't, I know better than you, which sometimes you can meet people who are a bit like that, but it was genuinely, you felt secure in his knowledge and his understanding of the project, which I guess is what lots of people are looking for, is that security and the safety of a good job being done well. And he would pass on information from his team and saying, oh, just say this has gone on or this has happened. So I think the communication really helped during the whole process of making us feel that our money was being spent well. It's producing a lot of solar. It's basically powering the house. What we can see every day is that we're taking hardly anything from the grid. And if you think back to in our houses that we would have been all gas, all electricity, and the only thing really now we're paying for is the standing charge. We're not exporting anything yet because our energy company has taken a while to sort that out, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But I think we're really pleased so far about how things are going. I'm certainly warm. We haven't really tinkered much with the system, except for we basically replaced.
We were actually too warm, so we did actually have to take it down a couple of degrees to start off with.
To right at the very beginning, but I think it's sort of kind of learning how to make that curve work for us. So
there's also, you mentioned the appliances. I think it's useful to be able to have appliances where you can have a timer on them to a greater or lesser extent, because that gives you the power to shift things. You don't want to be setting your alarm to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning because there's a cheap tariff.
You
want to be able to press a button on the dishwasher to say, I'll have this start in 6 hours, please.
Okay, so what would we pass on? What's our learning points?
Take your time. I think that's an important one, to make sure what you've got is right for you. Conversations with a friend early on to, well, how many solar panels might we need? Well, no good at the front because it's not getting the sun and doesn't justify the investment. But at the back, hey, we've got room for an extra 3 here. Let's put them in.
I think if you are not technology minded, which I don't think I am particularly, I think do your research. I think there are lots of people out there who want to take your money off you, and it's how can you be sure that the person and the company you're putting your money with will really look after you. And I suppose the things that we learned was, do they turn up? Will they come and do the survey in person? What kind of communication are they happy to have? I recognise that every business needs to sort of kind of get people on board and paying money, but actually the customer journey is really important, and making the customer feel like they feel safe and are supported, and that they are putting their trust in somebody and that you are worthwhile for that purpose, I think is really important. So I think, how can you make sure that happens? And I think anybody who starts getting a bit annoyed with you or putting pressure on you to go with them really isn't necessarily got your best interests at heart. So I think the quick sale, not coming round, not being prepared to invest in that relationship with you, I think really are all flags, I'd say red flags. You want somebody who's prepared to answer emails, who's prepared to come around and have a chat, who will look at what your particular site is and give you advice as to what you can or can't do, and is prepared to say, I'm sorry, I don't think your project is right for this, because then I think you know that they're not going to be wasting your money. I think investing, some time looking them up online, looking at, previous customer reviews. Mark gave us some really good tips about being able to see other, projects he'd been working on, and where people were prepared to have that conversation with him and with us. And so that was really helpful as well. And I think making sure that you understand a bit about how the technology is going to work for you. For me, I wanted it instant and I wanted it warm. I recognise now that actually the instant side of things is something I might have to let go, but the warmth I don't have to let go on, so it's much more thinking in advance and being a bit more prepared. So I think all of those things matter, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think, you don't need to get hung up on the technology. You can look at the technology if you want to and see what's going to happen, look at the percentages, or you can just let it run. You can just sit back and think, oh, okay, that's fine, I'm looked after. We didn't used to stare at smart meters all the time, and I don't necessarily precisely.
But yeah, I think making sure that, I think it's the relationship with your installer. I think it won't be successful afterwards if the install hasn't happened right in the first place. And I think finding that right person, I think is key in that process for us, to make sure that we're not one of those people turning around and going, it's not doing X or Y for us, and then somebody saying, I'm not available to come and sort that out. So I think it really does come down, a lot of it, how things are done and how you then work with that team as they go on that journey with you. So I think that's probably our key takeaways. Yeah.